We don't sell that here. I head out to a local mall a few days ago, determined to do some serious Christmas shopping. As a bit of a reference, I'm only about 5'5" and quite thin. I have a shaggy pixie cut and prefer the comfort of big t-shirts and skinny jeans most of the time, so I get mistaken for a 12-year-old boy a lot more than I would like to admit. Sorry if this gets a bit long. So there I was, list in hand, my Christmas list, and ready to take this thing on like a champ. I had more money than I've had for Christmas in a very, very long time, and I was really excited to get some excellent gifts for my best friend and my parents. I was walking along on the ground floor, headed for the stairs, when I passed this lady who was giving out hand lotions. She had a few small packets in her hand and a larger bottle on a little table beside where she stood. Okay, cool, I think to myself. Grab a sweet-ass lotion packet and keep on going. I didn't want to be rude and just keep walking, so I took the lotion and smiled in a sort of thanks for the lotion lady kind of way. Big mistake. Before I had the opportunity to keep going, this chick grabs my wrist and lets out a squeal that would hurt a banshee's ears. You keep your nails natural? Friggin' hell yeah, I do. I clean for a living, so there's not much point in getting them done unless I'm going somewhere special. Sure, I said, and tried to wrench myself free. To my dismay, this lady has a hold of me like a hungry anaconda, and I knew I'd be stuck listening to her sales pitch. I was a bit confused as to why she picked me out of the entire crowd of people walking, especially because the boots and studded jacket usually scared off potential creeps, and probably friends too, but hey. Unfortunately, all the leather and studs in the world did nothing for my baby face, so I probably still seem very easy prey for this asshole. She's all, look how great this makes your hand and nails look, while all I could think of was why she thought I cared. My hands are all scarred and callous from various DIY mishaps and years of guitar practice, so there isn't much that can be done for them. I attempted a getaway by letting her know that I wasn't interested, and then I had to get back to shopping before it got too late. She batted her eyelashes and said that, lucky me, since I was so cute, she would give me an entire set for the low price of $20 if I followed her to go get it from her stand upstairs. I just come from the top floor of the mall, since there were exits and entrances on both floors, and I knew for a fact that the only kiosk up there was an eyebrow threading place. Like hell, I was going anywhere besides GameStop to get my little brother a new game for Christmas, so I declined. She tightened her hold of me and just repeated the sales pitch, this time asking me weird questions in between trying to convince me to buy this lotion. How old are you? 19. Where do you go to school? I graduated. Do you have a sister? No. Where's your boyfriend? I don't have one. I tried again to tell her nicely, because I hate hurting people's feelings, to fuck off and let me get back to my Christmas shopping, when she stared me dead in my eyes and said, Are you alone? A million little alarm bells went off in my head, and I lied and I told her that I was there with my dad. She looked around and asked which one he was. I pointed out the most intimidating looking guy I could find, and she launched back into trying to sell me this product at warp speed. Like she was in some kind of a huge hurry. I told her again, more firmly this time, that I was not spending any money on her hand lotion. She started walking off in a random direction, still holding my wrist, and insisted that I come with her to see more of the product she was selling, because surely I would want something. Despite the fact that every friggin' word out of my mouth said the complete opposite, I yanked my arm free and stood my ground, prepared to defend myself if she tried pulling me with her again. I'm not buying anything from you. I need to go back to shopping. Before I could even turn away, she asked what I used to wash my face. A bit off guard, I told her, and she began to launch a barrage of insults at me like, You're too pale, your skin's so dry. Featuring my personal favorite, it looks like a shredding lizard. I didn't put any stock in her petty attempts to insult me. People had complimented me on my skin before, and I liked the way I looked anyways. I walked away, instead of throwing anything back at her, and headed upstairs to finish shopping. But before I left the mall that night, I marched my dry lizard skin right over to the nearest mall cop, and informed him that he had some rude-ass people working in the mall. I wasn't sure who to tell, so I wasn't too surprised to see him scrunch up his face in confusion. I expected him to direct me to a sort of complaints desk or something similar, but nothing could have prepared me for what he said next. "We don't sell that here." Well, shit. I described the woman and told him what brand of lotion she had tried to get me to purchase, but he only shook his head and told me the vendor for that particular brand had not been coming around to that mall for years now. On my way back to the parking lot, I passed the spot where she had originally confronted me. There was no woman, no lotion samples, no vendor's cart. I later asked my cousin who worked inside the mall if there was anyone selling that lotion there. She said no, and a quick peek at the mall's online directory confirmed it. I hate to think where we would have ended up had I followed her, so Sinister lotion vendor, let's not ever meet again. Weirdo at the Verizon store. First time posting here after a long time of lurking. Also uploading from mobile, so please excuse any spelling errors. This is about experience my mother had, not me. So, we all know how much of a nightmare Christmas shopping can be. Well, my poor mother had an especially rough time this year. I was with her in the local mall, and since it was so crowded, we both wanted to get out as soon as possible. Now, I had the not-so-brilliant idea to split up so that we could get our shopping done more quickly. I headed off to a department store, while my mother went to the Verizon store to get my little brother a new phone. This next part is based on what my mother described. She walked into the small store and began looking at the phone my brother wanted. Out of nowhere, someone touched her shoulder. She turned around, and there was an older man, probably in his 60s, looking straight at her. He was wearing a muscle shirt, even though he was gross looking, and had tattoos on his chubby arms. He began gushing about how beautiful my mother was, and how lucky he would be to have her, etc. Now, the strange thing is, my mother is in her 40s, and doesn't exactly have the most attractive body. I know I shouldn't be rating or judging my mom, but, that's the honest truth here. So I could predict harassment of a younger, more attractive woman, but not my mom. But certainly, really not to my mother, who's also wearing a goddamn wedding ring as well. Anyways, he continues this. He kept harassing her the entire time she was inside of that store. Now, being the meek soul that my mother is, every time he said something, harassing her, she just politely declined every one of his offers, and didn't ask him to go away even. She told me that everyone in the store began to notice his strange treatment, and the employees pitied her and quickly gave her the phone and a number to activate it, to kind of speed up the whole transaction, if you will. Later, when I met her outside, she was visibly shaken and her face was red. I asked her what happened, and when she told me, I wish I had been there. I would have told that creep to back the fuck off. I mean, let's not meet. Weirdo who hit on my mom inside the Verizon store. Walmart creep for Christmas. I was at my local Walmart the day before Christmas, shopping with my grandparents for stocking stuffers and the like. Getting bored, I wanted to go look around the store and they let me, as long as I looked for a clown-designed bag for my great-grandma's gift. Now, my family was sick, and I prefer my grandparents anyways, so that had worked out well. I went around, first to the books, and found nothing interesting, so I decided to move on. Eventually, I decided to search more actively for the bag. I found balloons and decided it was more birthday-like than clownish, so I bumped into a guy and turned to apologize. I guess maybe alarm bells rang at that moment, even though he didn't look all too suspicious to me. Maybe it was instincts, maybe it was my gut, maybe it was like a primitive thing in my brain, I don't know. Anyways, I apologized and quickly kept looking around. I thought, I really did, that he had moved to a woman with a baby in her cart. I breathed out in relief, figuring that it was his family, which put me at ease, just a better picture. Then I noticed the same man in the aisle next to me just walking around, but not really looking around. I don't know how to phrase that, but feeling still slightly uneasy now, I went with my gut and moved to search elsewhere. I checked maybe 2 more aisles before he showed up again, a presence next to me, in which made me look. And just as I did, his hand was at my side. I've had some worse experiences with others, but this was actually tame compared to most. He tickled my side and leaned in really, really close. Again, at that moment, with my instincts, I stepped back a few times, but he moved with me. His words freaked me out the most. "You're such a cutie," he gushed, turning back his hand with a creepy grin appearing. My features twisted in disgust, I'm sure of that moment. My stomach flipped and bounced. I now really wish I'd thrown up all over him, but whatever, thrown something at him at least, "Do you have a boyfriend?" Now, I could not formulate a reply, my mouth, tongue too heavy suddenly, twisted. I think I made an indignant noise. I'm not sure if he's into older girls or not, or what. I just turned 15 years old at the time, and it seems I filled out well everywhere except my height, so I stand about 5 feet or so high. I can't imagine him thinking I was a kid running around because, again, I filled out well, so maybe he's just into teenagers, I guess. It seriously freaked me out at the moment, but I was stuck there in his vicinity, and there was nothing I could do, so he waited for a response. The response should have been a knee to the crotch or a punch in the face, but I have horrible anxiety as it is. I've always had it, since I was very little, and had it worse since I turned into a teen. That's when I consider making a scene, I couldn't stand to alert the only other 2 people in the aisle who were unaware of this whole situation. I'd say he was around 30 or so, unattractive and kind of straggly. My heart was pounding, but eventually my grandparents showed up. Now my grandfather is quite tall, in a horribly intimidating sort of way, I guess. So, with a glare, the creepy smile was wiped away, and he bolted out of there. My pulse hadn't calmed whatsoever. I'm not sure how I must have seemed, but inside I was shaken up like crazy. They walked me to the next aisle, and to avoid a confrontation, I went outside with my grandma to tell her what happened. All the while, my grandfather paid. So in conclusion, freaky guy that tried kidnapping a short, auburn-haired, newly 15-year-old girl, teen, at a Walmart the day before 2014's Christmas. Let's never meet again. Please. Christmas shopping became creepy. So, this actually happened today, probably about 10 hours ago or so. And to be honest, the more I think about it, the creepier it is. My older sister, I'm a guy by the way, needed to do the rest of her Christmas shopping today, and had a list of places she wanted to go do that. That included our local mall in Northern Virginia. Well, I was accompanying her because, number one, she's a very petite person, and people normally find her to be attractive, so she gets the typical teenage or 20s guy that oh so smoothly walks past us more than once for no apparent reason. And number two, obviously she needed ideas on what to get me, so I was supposed to point out some stuff to her so she could pay for it, right? Being that I recently got my new holster and my own CHP, I decided I would conceal carry today. Well, we looked at a couple of stores, Hot Topic, American Eagle, etc., those kind of stores, Hollister or whatever, and we're running out of places to look, and I admittedly hadn't given her many options for gifts. One decided to go to Spencer's because, hey, they have t-shirts, and also some throwback to my childhood, like classic Nickelodeon stuff, you know? Well, we're in the back of the store looking at the t-shirts, having no such luck at finding anything I'm liking, or that's actually in my size. Go figure, this close to Christmas, when this guy in maybe his late 30s or early 40s, relatively short dark hair and a long goatee, average build, maybe around 5'8" or so in height, comes right next to us and starts looking at the same stuff. This alone isn't very suspicious. I mean, it's a free country. You can go wherever you want, right? Granted, also, we're the only two other people near the back of the store, but there's plenty of merchandise, so whatever. And just carrying a small coffee, so normal enough, I guess. He then looks at me and says, "They got a lot of stuff in the store," which, if you've been to Spencer's, you know they also sell adult items in the back of the store, which is the opposite side from where we were at the time. So I just say yeah, and we keep looking. Well, this guy is not really looking at merchandise anymore, but weirdly just looking at my sister and I, which I attribute to another guy finding my sister attractive or hot, so no big deal. We go to walk away, going around this rack of clearance shirts and whatnot, and he follows, literally right on our tails, all the way around this rack of clothing. By now, at the moment, I'm creeped out, so I'm keeping an eye on this guy, and my hand, which normally is sitting at the side to cover my gun, that happens to be slightly sticking out of the bottom of my shirt, has now only come resting at the bottom of my holster, ready, armed, and ready to aim. My sister is quite obviously creeped out by this guy now too, and I have to admit, even though I'm 5'10", 215 pounds, I'm weirded out by him at least. Maybe that's the paranoia of having law enforcement family members, but something just did not feel right. So we look at each other and she says, "Okay, are you ready to leave?" To which I said yeah, and pointed towards the front of the store, where all the employees and customers were. Now, as we're walking away, I heard something that caught my attention. I hear a "hey man" coming from behind me, which I know is this creepy guy. Well, I don't really want to talk to him after he's made me feel so uncomfortable, so we keep walking, with my sister probably a good 5 feet in front of me, because I know if anything, I'm not letting him between me and her. I want to protect her, and this lack of response does not stop him, so yet again I hear a "hey man" from behind me, to which I turn slightly, my holster side away from him, to see his hand outstretched towards me, like he wanted to shake. Now, despite understanding what this gesture means, I said, "What?" Because I don't really see a need to shake hands with this guy, and he responds with, "Well, it was nice to meet you anyways," which wouldn't be a very creepy statement if it weren't for the fact that we literally did not talk at all, other than the one comment he had made before. My choice of response of, "Nah, I'm good, man," did not sit well with this guy. He then decided, "Yeah, well, fuck you too, man," was an appropriate response, I guess, which didn't faze me at all, as I already turned around to walk away at this point. I guess he had hoped I'd turn around and say something back, because when I didn't, he followed up with a "fuck you, you bald-headed motherfucker." I prefer a military-style haircut, you know? While this small altercation was taking place, my sister was doing what our original plan was, and walking towards the exit, the distance between us increasing, so she was unaware until the last insult, which was yelled at me. She whips around, not knowing what the hell was going on, and looks at me asking, "What?" I responded with, "Just keep walking," knowing it wasn't worth the effort or the time to engage with this now hostile creeper, and that if he came out of the store after me or us, then I would escalate accordingly, which he thankfully did not. We immediately went to a different store in the mall, where we had a second to process what the hell just happened, and one of my thoughts that came to my head about what he was planning is that he wanted to shake my hand because he was trying to attempt to get my hand to hold me in place while he threw whatever was in that cup in my face, to either 1, take my gun if he somehow saw it when I shifted around, 2, to grab my sister's purse, or 3, something that I'm too non-creepy to comprehend, but I'm glad we never found out. Needless to say, my adrenaline was pumping for several more minutes afterwards, and I was constantly looking over my shoulder until we finally left the mall. A few minutes later,